Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, April 26th. Couple areas of concern today for severe weather. First of all, out in the middle part of the country, the heartland from Texas all the way up to Nebraska. Tornadoes are quite possible later on today into tonight. A clash of air masses out there, cold air over the Rockies will interact with some warm air over the central part of the U.S. And there is a second area of concern right here in the mid-Atlantic region as a slow-moving cold frontal system drops from the north to the south over the next several hours. We could have some strong thunderstorm activity in D.C., Philly, or New York City during the midday or afternoon hours. Any strong thunderstorm in the mid-Atlantic region later today could produce some brief heavy downpours, damaging wind gusts, and even some possible small hail. This is the latest outlook put out by the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. It's got a moderate risk of severe weather out here in the middle part of the country. Again, we'll focus in on both of these areas over the next couple of minutes. I believe the greatest threat exists in the central and eastern part of Nebraska, central and eastern Kansas, central and eastern Oklahoma, all the way up into northeastern Texas. But basically, this whole region right here is under the gun for this afternoon. Meanwhile, a slight risk of some severe weather as put out by the NOAA forecasters here at the Storm Prediction Center for the Mid-Atlantic region. Low pressure will form along a slow-moving cold front, and all that takes place right over the D.C., Philly, New York City corridor. Well, before we get to some forecast maps, let's take a look at the latest surface map. Indeed, here's that cold frontal system move to the north for the most part of the New York City, Philly, D.C. region. It'll slide slowly southward today as a cold front. Right now, it's pretty much depicted as a stationary front. That will drop to the south as high pressure kind of builds into southeastern Canada. Meanwhile, along the central part of the nation, strong cold frontal system pushing eastward from the Rockies. Some cold air situated right out here. This cold air will interact with some warm and humid air and coming up from the Gulf of Mexico. And the end result will be a possible widespread outbreak of severe weather right in this region right here later on today into tonight. And this certainly can include some tornado activity and some hail the size of baseballs. They had some of that kind of activity there in the central part of the U.S. Kansas, for example, on Sunday night. Could have a repeat performance later on this afternoon and tonight right here in the heartland. And again, some strong thunderstorm activity possible right here in the D.C., Philly, New York City corridor later on today. Well, here's the latest radar loop across the northeastern part of the country. Quite an impressive looking solid band right here cutting across northern West Virginia, southwestern Virginia, on its way towards the D.C. metro region. Looks like that'll hold intact and arrive sometime during the midday or afternoon hours. Certainly can be a strong thunderstorm or two in the D.C. metro region this afternoon associated with that particular band. This ought to fill in as well here across central Pennsylvania, and anytime from the midday to through the afternoon into the early evening across Philly and New York City, there also can be some showers and maybe some scattered strong thunderstorms. Any strong thunderstorm in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor during the midday or afternoon hours can contain some brief heavy downpours, damaging wind gusts, and even some small hail. Well, let's take a look at some computer forecast maps. This is all using last night's Zero-Z GFS model run. This is actually the 12-hour forecast from last night's Zero-Z model run for this morning. So basically, it's the current 500 millibar map here. Two areas that jump right out at you. Deep upper level low here over southeastern Canada, and another one right over the Rockies. And these are the two responsible upper level features for the potential for some strong thunderstorms here in the mid-Atlantic region during the midday and afternoon, and right in the heartland of from Nebraska down to Texas. Later on today, there can be some severe weather and even some tornadoes out in that part of the country. Surface cold frontal system situated basically up across the north of the I-95 corridor right now, the region between D.C. and New York City. That will drop to the south as the day progresses, and there will be some strong thunderstorms along that frontal system, and low pressure, we'll see in a moment, will develop right along that frontal system. And here's the forecast map for early tonight. Again, using last night's 0Z GFS model run, still that deep upper level low here situated over southeastern Canada. And notice here, this upper level low out over the middle part of the country tends to go negatively tilted. By that, I mean the axis exists basically from the northwest to the southeast. And when you're on the southeast side of a negatively tilted upper level trough, there is a lot of upward motion in the atmosphere. That's why I'm really concerned about tornado outbreak right in this region right here. Severe weather and tornadoes from Nebraska down into Texas, especially the central and eastern part of Nebraska, Kansas and Oklahoma, all the way across northeastern Texas. Again, they're in the perfect area for the strongest upward motion, and also the clash of the cold air to the west and the warm, humid air existing later on today across the central part of the U.S. So perhaps a widespread severe weather outbreak out in the central part of the nation later on today, and some strong thunderstorms right here in the D.C., Philly, New York City corridor from the midday to the early part of the evening. Well, now let's take a look at the surface forecast maps from last night's 0Z GFS. This is for early this afternoon, about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Notice here, GFS is putting a low pressure area right along what will be a surface frontal system right at this time. I tend to take a look at where that surface low pressure is whenever you're talking about the potential for some severe weather. Under the location of a surface low pressure area, really there is an enhanced chance of some strong thunderstorm activity. And that's sitting right here over the D.C., Philly, New York City corridor early this afternoon. Similarly, out over the middle part of the nation, low pressure situated right out in that part of the nation. And again, there will be a severe weather threat in this part of the Central Plains later on today, with low pressure at the surface right in that vicinity. Now here's the 24-hour forecast map for 0Z tonight. Early tonight, low pressure jumps rather quickly to off the New England coastline. That frontal system works its way slowly through the I-95 corridor. It'll tend to stall out. Clouds will dominate the scene in the Washington area tomorrow, probably just to the south of Philly. It'll stay mostly cloudy, maybe some sunshine on the north side of Philly. New York City should get some sunshine tomorrow, and certainly quite a bit cooler than today. High temperatures today could reach 80-plus degrees in the D.C. metro region ahead of that cold frontal system, and perhaps well up into the 70s in Philly and New York City, again, before the rain set in and before the winds will shift to the north or northeast later on tonight. And temperatures will drop noticeably after midnight tonight, after that passage of that cold frontal system. Meanwhile, this evening, we talked about the location of the surface low as kind of a red flag for the potential for severe weather. There it is, right there over the central part of the nation. And again, this area right in here, central and eastern Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, all the way to northeastern Texas, certainly under the gun today for some possible severe weather and even some tornado activity. And finally, here's a forecast map for tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning. By this time, the front is well off the East Coast by this time. Well, kind of drew that incorrectly. Let's try drawing that again here. The frontal system basically down in this area right here, close enough to D.C. that they could remain mostly cloudy, probably partly sunny in Philly and mostly sunny in New York. And high pressure situated across south central Canada, edging into the northeastern U.S. will be a cool air mass for tomorrow, certainly quite a bit cooler than today, but there will be the return of sunshine. However, the remnants of this, the severe weather out in the middle part of the nation today will head in our direction. It'll weaken certainly, but we have the threat for showers to return here on Thursday and perhaps lingering into Friday as well. Probably a break in the pattern on Saturday with a pretty decent day, likely here in the I-95 corridor. Partly sunny skies, seasonably cool, but then even more showers could return on Sunday. There could even be a heavy rain event next week, and we'll focus in on that over the next several days. But possible strong thunderstorms in the I-95 corridor anytime from midday through the afternoon into the early part of the evening. Stay tuned to VencoreWeather.com for possible updates later today. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.